Welcome to More Than Work, the podcast reminding you that your self-worth is defined by more than your job title. I'm Rabiah, an IT project manager, comedian, nonprofit volunteer, and sometimes activist. Every week, I'll chat with a guest about pursuing passions outside of work or creating meaningful opportunities inside their workplace. As you listen, I hope you'll be inspired to do the same. Hey everyone, this is an episode that I'm really doing kind of last minute, to be honest with you. I was trying to think of what I was going to do for International Women's Day, and I thought I'd just make a donation. One thing you can do for International Women's Day is make a donation to a women's focused charity. But then I decided that wasn't going to be enough because there have been a lot of women who have played a really pivotal role in my life. Well, in my life overall. I mean, my mom, for one. She's the reason I'm here. But then also, you know, just in the last year, I mean, I've gone through a transformation of just trying to really figure out what is it that I really want to do. I've known for a long time my purpose is to serve. And one thing I'm doing is serving through this podcast because I'm getting feedback that these stories of my guests are really impacting others. And some of you are telling me you're sharing episodes with other people, hoping to get them involved in organizations you're hearing about. And some of them are saying it's inspiring you to do stuff. And I really want to hear from everyone, by the way. I love it. And I'm excited just for the content that I'm getting the privilege to produce. But anyway, I wanted to do a little bit more. And I was reading about International Women's Day. I wanted to know more about it because I just think it's important to understand what was the reason like these kind of days were created and why we're honoring women in this case. And it's really to celebrate the achievements of women. And this day was started in 1911. And one of the ideas is that there's no one individual that really will change the world, but it's just the collective like caring about humanity that does it. And so this is a day where we're celebrating the achievements of women. And the theme this year is choose to challenge. And that's why I'm doing this podcast, because this was a challenge for me to decide to just go forward and risk being a little vulnerable. The choose to challenge theme really resonated with me. It's choosing to challenge inequality, to call out bias, to question stereotypes, and to create an inclusive world. And I'm actually trying to even do that in this podcast. I'm trying to have guests of various backgrounds who can bring information about their lives and their experiences to people who may not otherwise hear them. And I've even looked at my lineup and I've thought, well, am I doing a good job of that? Am I representing people and viewpoints? And I'm going to have some guests on in the future that really challenge even my viewpoints and my biases, and I'm excited to do that. And I think that it's important we all do that and we all reflect and think about maybe some stereotypes that we hold about people and challenge them and try to figure out how we can not have those. And I think there's a unique experience of women, and then beyond that, then like women of color, also trans women, right? But there's all these like different women who have different experiences. And so I have to admit, and as I sit here in my flat in North London, that I, you know, have had a pretty privileged life as a woman. However, it's still been one lived as a woman. So I've gone through a lot of things as well because of that. And I can say I haven't always been a good ally to women. I've judged women who dress a certain way or look a certain way and made assumptions about them. And I've really, even this year, I've had the opportunity to meet in writing classes, for example, women who are doing different professions that really challenged what my perceptions were. And in order to become an ally, one must understand the people who they are an ally with. And I'm so grateful for everyone willing to share their experiences, because then it just makes me a person who I don't want to say woke, because I think woke is kind of a negative term at this point, but it just makes me a person who's aware and a person who can understand more of the implications of certain policies, for example, or the implications of certain attitudes, and then able to respect them. And so I have a lot I could talk about, and I've been struggling about whether I'll go down a certain rabbit hole with talking about Me Too and how women are treated and things that happened early in my career. And I think I'm not going to do that. What I want to do is use this time on International Women's Day to talk about the women who have been on this podcast, who you might be familiar with or you might not, and this might get you to go back and listen to an episode, and just tell you about them and how they're modeling the Choose to Challenge lifestyle, I would say. So my first guest ever was Shawnee Badger. She's a young woman in California. She's an activist for others. She looks out for animals. She's vegan and also an animal rights activist and an advocate for the environment. And she's an advocate for others. And she's someone who I would say is building a more inclusive world. And I just really admire her. So, Shawnee Badger. And then we have Alice Lasad. She's the founder and CEO of Meat Fight. It's a nonprofit organization benefiting people with MS by providing them with bicycles so that they can and also some training so they can participate in charity rides. It's an amazing organization. And this is a woman who has, again, she's creating a more inclusive world. She's making sure she can empower others to fundraise for themselves and to participate in events for themselves. Renata Sahajian. She's someone I've known for years. She's given her life to service. She's working right now with veterans and first responders in an organization that looks at their mental health and taking care of them. Charmin Guillot. She's someone who's a leadership coach. She's at Microsoft right now, working in their customer experience area. She practices yoga and karma yoga. And I also know that she's working to do work in equality and calling out bias and things like that in her job, and also outside of her job in how she's contributing in her community. Carrie Payne, this woman empowers others. She empowers other women. She's a world-class athlete, Olympic swimmer. She's a coach. She's a mother. And she is just doing awesome work as a woman. I mean, I experienced it firsthand when I went paddleboarding for the first time with her, and she encouraged me. And one thing I want to say at this point is I didn't always value women and the friendship of women and even women as coworkers, because a lot of times women tear each other down. A lot of times women look at each other and just completely tear each other down. I mean, women can be as bad as anyone else at doing that. But I've found that having female friends and having females as allies and being an ally to other women is so powerful, and you can create such strength in numbers. And so Carrie Ann's someone who I'm glad I started to learn that before I met her, because she's amazing. Wajiha Hussein, she is a chocolate maker and the founder of her own company. She broke the mold, broke expectations of her family and friends and colleagues, left a career in IT, and did her own thing. Dr. Lisa Cross is a virologist and a comic, and she shares her story, some painful stories about her that unique experiences she has had as a woman and only could have had as a woman. And then I have Vix Layton. She's a PR professional, and she's also a comic, but one thing that's cool too is she also has a podcast called Comedy Arcade, so it's really funny. And it's more funny than this one, that's for sure, especially today. But she empowers others because she pulls them on. She pulls comics onto her shows. She programs shows and she has comics on them, and other women. And she does an amazing job of being very inclusive, and she has great communication, and she's always helping people. And it's, again, so important. Sarah Robinson, she is someone I went to high school with, and I was astounded after talking to her. And when I listened back to the interview when I was editing it, and when I listened to it again, she's doing amazing work. She's chosen, again, a life of service. She is in her classrooms, even questioning her own stereotypes, and she's calling out her own bias. She talks about it specifically about like learning tools that she uses. And it really was an incredible thing to just hear and learn about, because it made me think about her high school experience and mine, and how even communicating to kids how important it is to show examples of, like, for example, she was talking about as a Spanish teacher, she has images of professions and how it was looking like she had all basically white people in these professions, and she changed how she was presenting professions in her Spanish class. And so I just thought that was so cool to listen to how she's doing that. And she's also active in the teachers union. And by the way, teachers are getting their vaccines now, and that's amazing. And that's the accomplishment of teachers and a lot of especially activists who were going and fighting for that. So that's amazing. Sandy Castrol, she is the co-founder and CEO of IC Stars, which is an organization that is taking people in underserved communities, providing them with training. They're working very hard in this training program, but they're getting training in leadership and technology, and then they're going out and getting jobs. And again, she is especially like in inequality and inclusion. She's working in those two areas. Those are all the women who have been on the podcast so far. I'm still grateful for each conversation I had with them. I want to say I want to acknowledge there are a group of women who are staying at home and they're stay-at-home moms, and they're working hard. And I think it is a privilege to get to do that. I mean, I'm not a parent, but I think a lot of parents both have to work and some don't. But they are still working. These women are still working, and they're raising children who will become the people who are, in the professions, making decisions in the boardrooms and things like that years from now. And I think one stereotype that needs to be questioned too is just that, like, someone who stays at home isn't working, because they are. And I see it. I see how hard my friends work. I see how hard my sister works raising kids. It's a hard job. It's not a job for everyone. And then all the women who are not doing that, but they're going to work every day and taking care of their kids. I don't know how you're doing it. It's amazing to me, because quite honestly, guys, I basically have to go 5 feet from my bed. Not even that, probably. I'm in a studio. From my bed to my desk sometimes, it's hard enough. I'm not raising any kids. I'm not putting food on the table for anyone but me. I'm not doing any of that. So I just want to give a shout out to all the women. Whether you're staying at home, you're working in an office, you're working elsewhere, whatever you're doing. Today is your day. It is International Women's Day. If anyone wants to, they can make donations to organizations that help empower women and support women, or even run by women. You heard about a couple here, IC Stars and Meat Fight. There's the internationalwomensday.com website that you can check out. I do these episodes by myself, and I'm not sure if they're serving the purpose I want them to. But I just wanted everyone to be aware of this day, and I wanted to do something to honor the women who have been on my podcast. Also, to the woman who has had the most impact on me, my mom. I know you're probably not listening because podcasts aren't your thing, but I appreciate you. And Samara, my sister, I appreciate you. Thanks for joining me this week. You can find out more about our guest in the show notes. The music you're probably moving to by now is by Joe Mafia. Find him on Spotify. That's Joe, Maffia. And Rob Medke is responsible for our visual design. You can find him online by searching for Rob, Metke. Thanks, Rob. Let us know who you'd like to hear from, or about your own experiences defining yourself outside of work at More Than Work Pod on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. Give us a follow. Or visit our website at rabiahsaid.com. Subscribe on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for listening to More Than Work. We'll be back next week with another guest. In the meantime, while being kind to others, don't forget to be kind to yourself.